Hello, welcome to part 2 of my guide to creating or partly creating a map for Hello Custom Edition. I really have no idea what I should call these series of tutorials, since I'm kind of making a map and I'm kind of not, but if you're watching this for the first time, I'm pretty much making a map for someone and making a video on how I'm doing it, so yeah. Alright, so this is where we left off with this kind of uninteresting border strip. Before we continue, I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to save this as 02. Alright, now is the time where it's a good idea, because when you're looking at cliffs and stuff, there's a lot of variation going on. Cliffs don't generally just look straight, boring, and uninteresting. A little like what I just created here really quickly. So cliffs never usually resemble that. There's always a lot of variation up and down, left and right, and forwards and backwards. So nothing is as linear as what I have so far. To counteract this, what I'm going to do is just push the top of that border up. I'm going to go into vertex mode, select one vertex, and then I'm going to be using soft selection, and I'm going to adjust the fall off. Alright, and set it to something like, I don't know, 1400, and I'm going to be pushing that up. And that's the reason why I'm using soft selection, is because it's not going to just be pushing up one vertex. My apologies for that. One vertex on its own. It's going to be pushing a group of them based on the fall off amount that I have here. Whereas if we didn't use soft selection, it'd pretty much just be one vertex by one vertex by one vertex, and that would be super annoying. So let's continue. So to give you an idea of what I'm doing here, I'm really just pushing verts up and down. You're free to move them in and out as well. There's nothing stopping you doing that. At the moment, just try your level best to break up, this sort of straight edge that we have here. So there's nothing much else that I'm doing other than focusing on that. To save you a little bit more time, what you can do is select groups of verts or vertices and pull them up and push them down, whatever you want to do. Be wary though, because this can produce patterns and whatnot, and repeated sort of designs, and that can kind of be spotted once you're in game, and it might look a little bit rubbish, might look good, depending on how it's interpreted. But yeah, the more variation the better is really what I'm trying to put across here. So I'm going to pull that down. I'm just moving. I don't really have a set kind of workflow here. I'm just making changes to the silhouette of our model. Push that down, pull it up, and push that up. And we put it forwards, and since we pull that forwards, we'll pull that back. And I think I'm going to do the group vertex selection thingy. So select a few verts here, select one here, and you can do that. You can also use the scale tool here, which is kind of handy. Adds a little bit of variation here and there. Nothing great. Alright, pull that up, push that up, pull that down slightly, pull that up, and pull that back, pull those in, pull those up, and pull those in, and up. Alright, so once you have something like that, try and do the same to the floor. And I'm going to pause here since there's nothing really interesting going on apart from me doing this. And, would it be a good idea to do the floor? Yeah, I guess so. But since we're going to be connecting and creating a floor later on, you don't want to push these up too much, but just to give a little variation here and there. And by the way, I apologize for the quality of my voice here. I sort of have a sore throat and a mouth ulcer, so this isn't exactly the best time to make a video tutorial, but you know, I figured this would be as good as time as any, and I've got a little bit of free time, so why not? Alright, and okay, we're not done yet, so okay, fine, that looks good. Now we want to select this top border here, uncheck soft selection. You can actually just close that row out. You want to shift, click and drag on the Z axis to bring up, extrude another row of edges. And like I was saying before, you want to kind of give them a little bit of variation. And the way you can do this is by using the scale tool, which is a handy tool. I'm trying to find which one is it. It's that one. That's interesting, but be wary of, you know, stuff like this where this is completely flat. That's going to bite you in the ass later on, so it's probably best to just use the uniform scale tool. Just push it out a little bit and then sink it down. You don't have to keep all the thicknesses the same with your edges here. In fact, I'm going to double click that edge and just push it down slightly. And I'm going to hit R on my keyboard to bring up the scale tool and bring it in. Now push this edge down, and I'm going to push it, shift, click and drag on the Z axis again, bring up another row, pull it in, and pull it in a little bit more, shift drag, pull that up, hold R, bring that up, shift, click and drag again, bring that in, shift, click and drag, push that up, and then I'm going to scale that out, pull it down quite a lot just to create sort of this ledge here, and then I'm just going to shift, click and drag upwards once more, and then I'm just going to have my sky here. So these are the cliffs that I have so far, and at the moment there's far too many, so I'm going to take this down a couple of steps. I'm going to click and then shift click on the next neighboring polygon on this row of polygon, then hit delete and do the same here, and I'm going to do that here as well. And I'm not entirely sure how high I want this to go. I don't want it to be too crazy, so I'll probably just sink this down to create that ledge and then shift drag up. Yeah, and that looks good. That's not too shabby. Alright, now let's do a little bit of cleanup. You want to watch out for edges which are look something like this, which don't really seem to be complementing the shape in any way. You could just get rid of them and then sort of fashion the other edges. You want to do a lot of rotating as well and scaling, so you could just do that, or you could actually rotate those existing edges, kind of pull them back or something like that. And we're going to have to rotate this as well. And I'm going to have to move that edge there, just to really avoid sort of these tight packing features, which again will bite you in the ass later on, because they'll end up clustering up. Ooh, that's really severe. I'm not going to even fix that. I think I'll just backspace that out, control backspace that out. And I'll go ahead and give this a shot, fixing it. I'm going to control backspace that out, rotate this, put that somewhere there, bring that down to there, I'll rotate that, oops, rotate. There we go, that's sort of fixed our error. Yeah, same thing going on there. Kind of annoying, but you know, there's not much that I've played around with which can get rid of them. This basically has to do with normals and the way those normals are facing, and that's where these edges end up pointing. You could go in fact and edit those normals by just dropping in edit normals kind of modifier on, and then I'm not exactly sure where there's how you get to show handles. There you go. But this in itself is kind of a minefield, so I tend to avoid doing that. But you can go ahead and research it up. Perhaps you might be able to find a solution. And if you do, then please go ahead and message me, because this is, you know, another error in sort of this workflow which I'm using. I'm going to backspace that edge out here. Kind of rotate that edge and push it back some just to give it some variation. Okay, that's not good. And again, that's not going to be good at all. Neither is that. Or that. Oh no, that's kind of acceptable. That's going to be okay. That isn't. I think we're back at the start, so that's okay. Alright, so at the moment we have something which looks, alright, admittedly pretty ugly. I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple of loops. If I can. Oops. By going to edit and swift loop, I'm going to have to catch. Oh, hang on, I know what the problem is. All our normals are facing outside when they should be facing inside. So I'm just going to select all my normals and find the flip icon, and then yeah, that's fine. So if I go to edit, Swift Loop, and then that will give me an edge to work with there. So I'm going to add in 2 edges there. I'm going to select that edge. I might be able to scale it in slightly, give me a bit more variation, and scale that one out. So you can use Swift Loop to your advantage there. And it's pretty handy too. I'm going to push this edge down some, and that's going to be fine. So at the moment what we have really looks not particularly pleasing, and that's because it's not finished, so try and bear with me on this. What we're going to do now is I think we should go ahead and make the floor, and then I'll be done with this section of the tutorial. We'll move on to another part, which will be actually smoothing everything, making it look good, turning it into a high resolution model, and then optimizing it down into a game usable model. But before we do that, we're going to have to do a little bit of bridging. Since we're working with quads, we can use the bridge tool, and then we can interactively select one polygon, bridge it to another. Remember though that this works in quadrangles, so you can only bridge from one edge to another. You can't bridge triangles, so just be aware of that. So you see I have a problem here where I have to sort this out now. I think probably the best way to do this would be, first of all, I'm going to click this lower loop of polygons here, shift click on the next polygon, then I'm going to go to visibility, hide unselected. That will just allow me to see the first floor. And I could cap this, but that just gives me one single polygon to work with. I guess what I'm going to have to do is try and create quads manually using the connect tool. Oh, that's not good. Some triangles are okay. Definitely don't use any n-gons. So an n-gon would be something like that, where we have 5 points connected to one face. A quad would be 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4 connected to one face, and a triangle would be 3 points connected to one face. So 3 and 4 is okay, because when we come to smooth this, the smoothing won't be affected that much by the quads and the triangles. But if we start to, use n-gons, which are 5-sided faces, and that's really going to screw up our day. So we want to try and avoid doing stuff like that. That was probably a stupid thing to do here. So control backspace those. Try and make this look slightly neater. That's the problem is that far too loud. So I'm going to bring those words up, and perhaps push them in slightly so they work a little bit better. There's not much I can comment on here, other than what you can see I'm doing. And create a triangle there. So really what I'm doing here is selecting one vertex, selecting another neighboring vertex, making sure that when I connect them, it'll create a triangle or a quadrangle, and then I'm going to right click and select my connect tool, and it will connect those two vertexes, or vertices, sorry, is the correct plural, I think. Again, this is tedious and it sucks, but you know, if you do it right, it's really going to help you in the long run. I'm going to have to change the flow here since we're working with a corner. Rather obtuse corner. That vertex is really low, so I'm going to pull that up. I'll pull it up too. And throwing ourselves into a little pickle here. We're not going to be able to do that because, yeah, it's a little bit too sketchy, so I'm going to move that vertex there. And that should be good right there. I'm going to move those vertexes up. Vertices, sorry. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah, that works. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to need to create some extra topology on the floor. And I'm going to be using the Swift Loop tool to do just that, just creating some extra links. And if our topology is seriously awful in every way imaginable, this is going to create a whole bunch of problems, but I think we're okay. Apart from what is going on here. This is just something we're going to have to fix. We could actually use the cut tool to create our loops. I think this is an easier option to getting hard to see what is going on. Yeah, we'll start from there. So the whole reason we're doing this is to create some extra topology to play around with later on when we start smoothing our mesh, and we'll be doing a little bit more soft selection themed things, and generally the more detail that we have, the more resolution that we have to start with, the more variation in the rise and the curve of the floor, and we have, the easier it will be for us. My main concern really is these these edges which are running parallel, which are really close together, and I'm a little bit concerned about that right now, but don't think there's much I can do about it at the moment, so I'm just going to ignore it. And I could do a little bit of manual relaxation, so something like that. I'm just not going to worry about it for the moment. Okay, we're nearly done here, and I'll do one more piece. One more here. And you know what that should do is, before I stop, I'm just going to go, any vertices which look really bunched up together, my advice would be to select them and just collapse them, so they'll be merged into one. So stuff like here, we actually have a really big gap there, so I'm going to sort that out. That's a little too close. And that's really close, so we'll go with that. Again, eliminate your n-gons, your 5-sided polygons. I'm going to collapse that because that doesn't look very good. You can also target weld if you feel like doing that. Most of the tools which I'm using are located in the edit polygon rollout, but I find it's much easier, instead of moving up and down the menu. Most of them, if you just right click, are located here. So I like to keep as much screen space as I have with this 15-inch laptop monitor, which is why I can't really afford to bring this out and have all my tools out, because then that really reduces my viewing space on my viewport. Doesn't really capture as much detail as it would if it was maximized, which is why I'm a heavy heavily reliant on right clicking to grab um, the edit poly tools instead of scrolling up and down the menu like a crazy guy. Try and avoid the overuse of triangles. I'm really only using them in corners, which technically really shouldn't be done either, but I don't think it's going to affect us too much, hopefully. Okay, so that's going to do it for now. I am a little bit worried about the thickness here, but it should be okay. I may even control backspace a few of these. Or just move a few over. No, actually, I'll pull those back in. That looks fine. It should be okay. So, with that said, I'm going to hit 4 on my keyboard, bring up the polygon view, go to visibility, and our graphite modeling ribbon, and unhide all. Now I'll bring back, the mesh which we hid earlier. Some of these corners are really, really tight. I have to confess, a little bit concerned about that, but if it does give us any problems later on, I'll think about fixing them. As of now, I'm just going to go with it. So I'm going to rename our object to level, and I'm going to go to File, Save, and I don't believe I've applied my modeling material to this, which is kind of stupid of me. Now that I've done that, I just need to change the edge color. I'll just change that to this blue that I have been talking about there, and that's going to do us for this part. And yeah, so I'll be seeing you in the third iteration of this sort of video guide to editing someone else's map. Thank you for watching so far.